welcome back here to Midday Kentucky. Now that it is November, plans starting to be made for the holidays. But for those of us who maybe lost a loved one this year, it can be tough to look forward to the holidays and making those plans. So we wanted to bring in licensed pastoral counselor Dr. James StillWell to give us some tips for navigating grief through the holidays. Thank you for coming in today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
First, talk to us about why it's so hard in the holiday season. If you think you're doing really well dealing with grief, the holidays come around and it gets really tough. Why is it so hard for people?
Well, it's the most wonderful time in the year.
Yeah.
And so everyone's expected to be joyful and happy, and you might not be.
Okay.
And to be able to have permission to feel whatever you feel and to schedule your own life in your own way.
So you talk about taking a holiday sabbatical. Is that sort of skipping the holiday, or what is that? Is that a tip or a trick to deal with it?
The way I like to think of it is you're going to alter rather than skip the holidays.
Oh, okay.
You're going to make it work for you to do it differently this year. You might not want to be in the same place. You might want to ask for, can we have a different location this year for our family gathering? Or just some way to make it different, because you want to acknowledge the fact that someone's not there. And that acknowledgement will make it easier for you.
So what are some other ways that we can change things up? You mentioned that can be really helpful, changing up. You said the meals, even gift giving, things like that. And that's not to forget about the person, right?
Sure.
That's just to maybe make the memory less painful. What are some of those tips?
Well, it's very meaningful to help you remember the person.
Yeah.
If people can give in their memory, in your honor. I know when my father died, someone gave 100 trees to be planted, knowing that that would be meaningful to me. Or whatever cause that might be meaningful to the one who's deceased. Another thing is just having an ornament to represent the person who's not at the table. And you can fill the ornament with things that represented that person.
Okay.
Maybe type out the years of their life or the year of their death, but just some way to acknowledge. And that way, the conversation, it's not all a downer. It's a celebration of their life, and to talk about what kind of things were special to them.
So you think finding ways also just to honor that person at the holidays, making their memory still known. Could that be putting up maybe a picture or other things like that of the person on the table?
Sure. Yeah, and it reminds me there's usually an empty chair.
Yeah.
You know, and so to acknowledge that empty chair in some way, you can set up the table for them. You know, there's lots of ways to do that. Another thing that people don't often think about is dogs die every 14 to 17 years or whatever pet you had that may not be there this year. And to acknowledge that somehow, that there's not only an empty chair, but perhaps an empty space under your feet. You know?
Do you have any tips for people at home? Maybe, you know, if you're fortunate enough, you haven't lost anyone recently, but maybe you have a friend or a family member that lost someone they were really close to. Do you have any tips for helping a loved one navigate their grief in the holidays? Should you address it head on or wait for them to come to you?
Don't be afraid to talk about it, because they're thinking about it constantly.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to bring it up. And give them permission to do holidays in their way and not always do it the same way we've always done it before. And
you have an event coming up talking about grief. Tell us about that.
So we're going to be focused on the idea of a Decembered grief throughout the whole month of December, as well as Thanksgiving. What are some coping skills that you can have in your life to help you with that? That's going to be held at the Good Foods Co-op 1 week from today, and space is limited, and you can register online at the Good Foods Co-op website on their Facebook page.
All right, well, Dr. Stillwell, thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate all that helpful info and you helping us navigate some of these tricky topics getting into the holidays.
Thanks so much.
And we have all of your information up on the screen. You're always posting these helpful tips over on your Facebook page. That's Dr. James Stillwell Ministries. You can also go to his website, and there is the phone number to get more information about that event. Thank you again.
Thanks.
And stay with us. Coming up next, we're back in the kitchen with Allison Davis. She is whipping up a fun haystack recipe. Stay with us.